When filmmakers set off, they expose themselves to angry, to hungry, and to big animals, risking life and limb to capture amazing images. Here we present some of the most exciting wildlife encounters ever captured on film. Flowing through the heart of Alaska, the Yukon River. Filmmaker Andreas Kieling is taking his family along for the first time on a film expedition. The current speeds them along. Andreas knows the river is tricky. Every few kilometers, it branches off in new directions, and maps are not always correct.
Let's take the right channel.
Yes.
They reach the notorious Five-Finger Rapids. The river is virtually squeezed past 4 large boulders. The rapids have cost many lives. Andreas is totally concentrated as he steers the boat through the narrow channel.
Eric, hundreds of people have drowned in these rapids. They only had homemade boats that resembled shoeboxes, or very crude rafts. Many of them couldn't swim. No one had a life jacket. They had no experience at all. A lot of bad accidents have happened.
The next danger lurks ahead.
I think there's a gravel bank.
The fast-moving current contains a lot of scree and silt, creating sand and gravel banks. The Kielings are heading full speed towards one of them.
Speed up, otherwise the motor will stop. Eric, get the camera, quick.
I'm afraid, Mum. Keep cool.
Birgit Kieling keeps her cool. She's used to dangerous situations. No one's been hurt, only the boat has sprung a leak, and they've run aground on a gravel bank.
Listen, Eric, you too. The boat may tip, but don't worry, the keel will stabilize it. Capsizing is impossible.
To make matters worse, the weather has turned. The family must wait until the hail stops. The mood on board shifts. They're painfully aware that the next village is at least 200 kilometers away.
Guys, winter's here. Get your fur hats.
Eric and Tore use the opportunity for a summer snowball fight.
Cold.
Quicker than expected, help is at hand. The Indians tow the boat free, but there's a bit of repair work for Andreas to do. The wildlife filmmaker amongst elks. In Alaska, of all places, where the elks are the largest on Earth. This doesn't stop Andreas Kieling from filming the bulls in the rutting season. But he keeps his eyes open. Rutting elks can be extremely aggressive. The bull is irritated. His right eye has been injured, so he's blind on one side. He can only sense Andreas by his scent. Andreas knows the risk he is taking, but it's only possible to get this close to the elks in the rutting season. Then they're preoccupied and forget the presence of a human being. But they could also attack without warning. If you're kicked by their sharp hooves, you'll be badly injured. possibly even killed. But the animals continue to ignore him. He manages to get some fantastic shots. No one has filmed rutting elks this close. But don't copy this example. In November, after the rutting season, Andreas will carry on down the Yukon to the Arctic Sea. The biggest problem is getting in or out of the canoe, because the banks of the river are beginning to freeze over. At temperatures of minus 15 degrees, wet clothing is lethal. Andreas has to get a fire going as soon as possible. If he allowed himself to get colder, he would fall asleep and freeze to death. But getting a fire lit is an easy task for an adventurer like him. He has to keep the fire going at all cost and keep collecting fresh firewood. He has to warm up as quickly as possible. His trousers are as stiff as board. Defrosting them is a slow business. At long last, Andreas has been lucky and is ready to face new adventures. There are no roads or paths leading through the gates of the Arctic National Park. Here in the north of Alaska, a team wants to film grizzlies. How will the bears react to humans?
Randy, my guide, always takes an old rifle along. Well, I don't know. We've never actually shot anything with it. We had an electric fence, but he didn't look particularly convincing. If the bear had smelled a tasty meal, and if he'd really tried to get to us, he'd have been successful. The bears noticed our camp, of course. We always thought that sooner or later, one of them would approach the fence and get an electric shock.
Ooh, I think that might just be enough.
Occasionally, after catching fish, some of those bears came across the hills to dig up roots. Sometimes they came close to our camp, very close.
There's a bear. I'm gonna go hide in my tent.
I might not come closer. I might just be careful and go away.
They leave Randy and Uwe alone. The omnivores don't attempt to get into the camp. The river provides them with enough food.
The salmon migration is one of the rare opportunities to get a lot of food in a short time. A good reason for the grizzlies to catch as much as they can.
The bears are not particularly afraid of humans.
Right at the start, the very first bear we came across, a young male, crossed the river, and he came very close to us.
Uwe knows. It's the young bears who are interested in warm-blooded prey. The adults prefer to catch fish.
I left the camera running, but we got out our pepper spray. I thought, I'm sure that we'll have to spray it at him. It was a dodgy situation. I felt the bear had come much too close. Nobody knew what would happen. It was our first day and our first bear. Quite tricky. Randy
and Uwe have a funny feeling. But the bears aren't really interested in the two-legged creatures. They can happily continue filming. In the expansive swamps of Florida, the Everglades, a Hungarian wildlife filmmaker sets off on a dangerous expedition.
I haven't been really in such place where actually the animals can hurt you.
Zoltan Török wants to film alligators. He's not afraid of them, although quite a few people are killed by alligator attacks each year.
We are on our way to an alligator nest. We want to film the alligator mother as she's guarding the nest. It's about 300 meters or 900 feet away from here. And we have this special tool because we want to get close to her. So let's see how she will react if she bites this or not. Of course there are alligators in the water, but you just have to take care not to step on them. It's very easy.
Accidents do keep happening.
I think those accidents mostly happen where people are feeding them or they are getting too close, I mean really very close. If there is a big male alligator in the wilderness, I wouldn't go too close to it because, you know, it's just dangerous.
This is the hammock, the tree island, where the alligator nest is located. We are just approaching very quietly. Hopefully she's on the nest or somewhere around. They are very protective, so we have to be very careful.
The female really is guarding her nest.
She comes over there. Yeah. She might come a bit too close. Then we have to back off a little bit. But she already knows us. So I think I start to shoot now. She's there. Veszek most a GoPro-t. I think we are only about 10 feet, about 3 meters away from her.
The alligators, basically, they are very good mothers. I think that's pretty hard work, you know, to be there for more than 2 months, not eating, not going away from the nest, and just taking care of the nest in case a predator comes. She's now in the right position, but we have to get close to her, so we use the small camera.
She's cute, we call her Princess.
I pretty much liked her. Actually, you feel privileged that you are so close to a wild, dangerous animal. I felt lucky. Anybody who has seen an alligator mother with the babies, you know, you are just melting away. I think they were just lovely as they crawled up to the head of the mother. It's really a lovely picture.
But their teeth are as sharp as knives.
It was a wonderful Sunday. My wife, my little daughter and I took the boat out, but it was just one of those days.
On the west coast of North America, the marine biologist Florian Grainer wants to film whales.
Only 25 minutes later, I found orcas. I had to speed up to 30 knots, and the whales came flying past. I could see the orcas harassing a grey whale, but it was a grey whale mother with her calf, so they were both in danger.
A scene like this has hardly ever been filmed.
She was fighting like a champ. It was a dramatic fight. She was lashing out, swimming in circles to protect her calf. It was a battle of giants.
war wirklich so ein bisschen wie der Kampf der Giganten.
The whales are still quite far away from the boat, but getting closer and closer.
All of a sudden, she was tired and had to leave her calf.
Florian has crossed the path of the gigantic beasts.
Sie hatten ganz schnell einen 90
She very quickly made a sharp turn and swam at high speed towards our boat, still fighting off the orcas.
Orcas noch auf dem Rücken, während sie aufs Boot zu kamen. Der letzte Orca ist
The last one of the orcas finally turned, but he was close to the boat. He used it as a kind of shield.
Schutzschild eingesetzt, das Boot. Da gab's natürlich dann gleich.
Of course, the whales lashed out with their tails in every direction and hit the boat badly. Its swimming platform broke off and was sent flying 20 meters through the air. The boat's propeller was out of order. For 4.5 minutes, it was a hell of a ride.
Wir hatten dann wirklich 4,5 Minuten ein Höllenritt. Meine Tochter war 2,5
My 2.5-year-old daughter was crying.
geweint und geschrien. Und so nach 4,5 Minuten hatten die
After 4.5 minutes, the whales left. Our boat was smaller than the whales, but big enough so they couldn't slide over it and press it down.
Und ihren Kopf nicht runterdrücken konnten. Ich werde den Moment nie vergessen.
I'll never forget the moment the whale mother came near the boat and looked deep into my eyes.
Direkt in die Augen reingeguckt hat. Das war so ein.
She looked at me full of suffering.
Auch leidender Blick.
Kruger National Park in South Africa. Its rich wildlife has made it the ideal location for generations of filmmakers. But only a few, like Josef Jozefowicz, seek out the largest and most dangerous animals.
Kruger
Park is bush. Animals hide easily here. You have to get close to the animals if you want to find them. Living in Kruger Park is a big adventure. The longer I've stayed, the more I've felt, here's the life I want to live.
Jürgen has a way with animals.
Some people are aggressive and animals feel that. I am not an aggressive man by nature, and because of that, I'm able to work with them.
Even the 2-ton heavy rhino bull senses that Jürgen poses no threat.
It had always been my dream to travel to Kruger Park. I guess I will never complete my work, but I think I will die here if they don't send me home. After a while, Africa is in your blood.
Sometimes Jürgen takes his children into the bush with him, but that's not often.
I had to rely on Jürgen completely. I always fear for him if he's gone into the bush, and the children as well. When Pa is gone, we're all waiting for him. Perhaps he won't come back, but fortunately, he always has.
Jürgen's biggest passion is lions.
My daughter was 3 months and my son 3.5 years old. We were sitting outside the caravan and all of a sudden it stank terribly. I asked, "Who's passed wind?" Not me. The children said, "Not us, Dad." So I said, "Then we have to get into the caravan. There's a lion."
Der Wind war richtig, man konnte es riechen.
The wind was in the right direction. You could smell the lion. A little bit later, we heard it. Your senses become much more acute out there.
Jürgen knows that the lioness is looking after her cubs. He decides to follow her, staying close on her heels. He wants to enter the lioness's den. Now he knows where she has hidden her cubs and takes the biggest risk in his filmmaker's career.
I still dream about my foolishness. I said to myself, Jürgen, if she comes back now, you're dead. But I had to go in. I'd seen where the lioness had gone, and I knew that her kill was about 3 kilometers away. So I calculated that she had about 15 minutes to return to the den. I crawled into the den with my camera. It was a tight squeeze. If she had returned while I was in the den, I'd have been dead.
The newly born lion babies don't like the look of this guy. As loudly as possible, they start calling for their mother. Jürgen's life is in danger.
As they say, even the best picture isn't worth dying for. But at that very moment, I didn't care.
When the lioness returns, he has left the den. Jürgen has gained her trust. She can smell that he's been close to her cubs, and no harm has come to them. From now on, he can film her at night. He films images only possible when an animal has complete trust. Kinshasa, the capital city of the Democratic Republic of Congo. From here, the wildlife filmmakers Christina Karliczek and Heike Grebe set off for the River Congo. But they have to get clear of the urban jungle first. 2 security officials are their constant companions. It's impossible to do anything without them. Finally, they sight their destination, the Congo. Camerawoman Christina can't wait and starts filming first impressions from the driving car. Sounds like trouble. And it is. It's what they feared.
When I was filming out of the window, we got into trouble with a military kind.
Trouble with the police. The 2 security officials sort out the situation while the camera is switched off. After several hours, the team reaches its first destination, the huge rapids at the Livingstone Falls. Along a length of 350 kilometers, the Congo drops through narrow gorges and deep valleys. These savage rapids are impossible to navigate. For humans, they are deadly. Even so, fishermen risk their lives in tearing current.
There's another fisherman, close to the rapids, standing in the middle of the tributary. He's casting his net. It's fascinating to see them working like that. They have cast their nets very close to the rapids, or between the rapids. They get there by canoe. In the morning, 2 men died after they tried to haul their nets. Another one survived.
In a thoughtful mood, the filmmakers continue their journey. They want to join up with colleague Thomas Behrendt, who is filming chimpanzees in the rainforest. Thomas has a totally relaxed male in front of his lens. But that changes when other chimps start appearing on the scene.
That sounds spooky, doesn't it?
What will happen when the animals come across each other? Not a moment to be missed.
He's so fast. You cannot follow him.
Chimpanzees are used to running through the thick undergrowth. Not so the filmmakers. Heike has lost her orientation in the swamp.
I lost the others. Did they go this way?
Okay, we've lost the other ones. There it goes, into the mud.
Da liegt sie mitten im Schlamm. Okay,
Filming whilst running is a bad idea.
I don't know.
No idea where they are. Damned.
The angry cries from the rival chimpanzees lead Heike back to the team.
Get out the camera, come on!
Thomas keeps his distance. The males might want to scare off rivals, but as excited as they are, their anger could be directed at him. But then they disappear off into the depths of the rainforest. Elsewhere, Christina has found bonobos, the dainty relatives of chimpanzees. The animals are agitated. Christina tries to follow them with her camera. High up in the treetops, two bonobo groups encounter one another. Will there be trouble? On the contrary, bonobos solve arguments peacefully. In contrast to the chimpanzees, the bonobo motto is make love, not war. They've already calmed down. Christina's conclusion? The tough going in the jungle was worthwhile. She has some fantastic images. The Canadian Arctic, a place of extremes. The thermometer can fall below -40 degrees Celsius. A camera team wants to film Arctic wolves and sets course for Ellesmere Island, the northernmost island of Canada. But before shooting, they have to dress warmly. Some are quicker dressers than others. Oliver Goetzel and Ivo Nuremberg hope they won't be kept waiting in the icy wilderness. Their wish comes true. A musk ox carcass has attracted the wolves. Ivo and Oliver are lucky. The number of wolves are spread out over a region half the size of Germany. They hadn't expected to get this close. Do they really just want to play? It would appear so. Hopefully, technology won't let them down. The young wolf takes a lively interest in the equipment, but it isn't an easy prey. Assistance is needed. The wolves must pull together. Oliver wants to end the game before something gets broken. A tug of war with wolves, an Arctic sport? 1-0 for Oliver. The wolves are good losers. They act as if nothing has happened and withdraw with dignity. Spain's northwest coast, rugged and remote. Here there is little evidence of human civilization. In the province of Galicia lies the notorious Costa da Morte, the Death Coast. It's the preserve of the Perceberos, the goose barnacle collectors. One of them is Francisco José Soto Barrero, known as Paco.
I've always been attracted to the sea, though not professionally. As a child, I often came here fishing with my father. We used to collect worms as a lure, but also goose barnacles. Maybe I made my choice back then. I've now been collecting goose barnacles for 7 years.
Dangerous and hard work. The barnacles cling tightly to the rocks. Francisco has to prise them off by hand. Paco's workplace is close to the wild breakers of the Atlantic. One small slip could prove fatal. Paco has a feeling for the waves. 7 years of work have sharpened his senses. You have to read the ocean to survive. Not everyone can. The memorials on the Costa da Morte bear witness to this.
I do get scared sometimes. I knew some people who died collecting goose barnacles. Sometimes you just get into dangerous situations. It all happens so quickly. You slip and smash your head on one of the rocks. Or you underestimate the power of a wave and get taken out to sea by it. It's easy to get killed in this job.
And yet, day after day, Paco takes this risk. To keep the population stable, the collecting of goose barnacles is strictly regulated. Incidentally, their name is misleading. They belong to the crustaceans. Paco's tremendous effort is only worthwhile because the strange seafood fetches crazy prices in gourmet restaurants. That's why he braves the exhausting trip to the offshore islands. Here are the biggest and most valued specimens, but prices have dropped.
Nowadays, it's really hard to make anything from collecting goose barnacles. I always make light of it by saying that I don't really live from my job, but rather from my wife's. It was a lot easier some 3-4 years ago, but today it's impossible to feed a family on it.
The ferrada, an iron rod, is used to prise the barnacles off the rock. After a peek into the next crevice, he ducks the coming wave. Just weeks after the filming finished, Paco drowned in the sea. The Costa da Morte remains deadly, even for the most experienced. The White Cliffs of Dover, England's landmark. The cliffs may be high, but the channel is shallow and dangerous for large ships. But for large creatures and filmmakers, these waters are paradise because they are rich in food.
It's passing you by closely. Quick!
A huge shark.
Are we sliding over them right now?
Florian Greiner and Nathalie Tesche-Ricciardi discover more scary-looking fins. The marine biologist wants to get an overview of the situation. Basking sharks. They grow almost 10 meters long and are the second largest fish in the world, only surpassed by the whale shark. Natalie is thrilled. She's been diving for years, but has never seen a basking shark. Florian is onlooker as she dares to approach the wide-open mouth of the giant. That's enough. Back to the boat. Thankfully, the basking shark is only interested in plankton. Water passes through its gills, which filter out the tiny organisms. So the shark doesn't need teeth. Still better to keep a safe distance. Its skin is like very rough sandpaper.
Awesome shots. He nearly ran into me.
I've seen that. He was diving down just behind you.
He really gave me a wary look.
Yes.
Florian can't contain himself. Plankton eater or not, he still felt uneasy as the huge mouth came swimming towards him.
But its tail went like this. I had to...
A blow from the huge tail fin wouldn't have been a nice experience. But all's well that ends well. Basking shark and diving team happily go their separate ways. Greenland, an icy, hostile place. Home to many polar bears. The gigantic island is sparsely populated. Filmmaker Uwe Anders has to set up camp, even if that means arousing the bears' interest.
If you're traveling on foot through areas which are home to polar bears and have to set up camp there, you need to be on the alert all the time. As we had no night guards, we surrounded our tents with an electro fence. We also attached a wire to its battery in order to fire a signal pistol. We made sure that everybody would wake up if a bear came near the camp.
Everyone's on standby as a bear appears in broad daylight.
For bears, the small hut behind these scientists is the most interesting place, because there the smell of food is particularly strong, and a bear is always hungry. But because of all those people standing there, he couldn't go there, so he concentrated on all the sweet-smelling things further away from the hut. And that's the shower, where the dishes are done as well, which means you might find some leftover food in the small stream. The bear's able to smell goodies even through a closed lid. It's fascinating how skillfully and carefully he opens the box. No brute force used.
But his nose signals it's a dud. He's not one to give in easily and has found some toothpaste. I wonder what that tastes like. The bear's verdict? Disgusting. But wasn't there something else?
Even this camp shower is treated very softly. He doesn't knock it down, but bites into it carefully, using only one of his teeth, and only small amounts of water trickle out. Who could have imagined that a mighty beast would act like this?
The bear retreats, even if he knows there is something to eat somewhere. Oh well, tomorrow's another day. Kamchatka, land of volcanoes and hot springs. Elemental forces are still forming the peninsula. Here, in the far east of Russia, the Earth is in constant motion, a precarious place to film.
In Kamchatka, our most stunning experience was that huge landslide. You cannot imagine what its dimensions were like. My assistant noticed it first and called, "Over there, get out of the hut." But he was unable to tell me what was happening.
On the 3rd of June 2007, a gigantic mudslide rolled towards their hut in the Valley of Geysers.
I jumped out of my bed and ran out of the hut. And I'll never forget the moment I was walking through its door. Everything around me, all the mountains were in motion.
The earth masses buried large parts of the valley beneath them.
Two minutes later, it was all over. Only much later did it occur to me that the situation was really life-threatening. The mudslide stopped only centimeters before it reached the hut, as if God's hand had stopped it. Unbelievable.
It was a miracle no one was injured.
Later, as we were flying over the mudslide in the helicopter, we looked down at the kilometers of devastation, and our hut looked like a tiny island in the center of it. We survived because we had a lot of luck. That was a close call, really.
The World Natural Heritage and protected Valley of the Geysers has changed its face for good. It will take decades until humans can venture into these valleys again. In Finland, the wildlife filmmakers Oliver Goetzel and Ivo Nuremberg want to film aerial shots from a hot air balloon. However, Ivo has just recently recovered from a bad ballooning accident in Russia.
On our first filming expedition after the accident, we went to Finland. And first thing on the agenda in February was to take aerial shots from a balloon. When we were airborne, my stomach churned, as if somebody was continuously stirring it around with a big cooking spoon.
It was quite an uncomfortable feeling to get into the balloon again, and almost immediately after the takeoff, it touched the treetops.
After 10 minutes, we hit the first fir tree. It was quite unpleasant bumping into it.
That was just a taste of things to come.
Having flown over uninhabited land, we weren't able to land anywhere. There was only one road, and we had to land exactly there.
You throw a line, and it gets tangled in a fir tree, a pine or a spruce. But you've got so much momentum, the tree starts to bend. Then branches and fir cones fly up into your face. and the balloon crosses the street, crashes into the trees on the other side of the road. After that, the burner ignites one of the firs, which means there's a fire above us.
The pilot has to continue burning gas to keep the balloon inflated, so it doesn't collapse onto the burning branches and sets fire.
All the hands were ready to haul the balloon down.
You immediately think of your previous crash. But the same day, we got into the balloon again because the sun came out. And we felt all right. This flight was okay.
This time they escaped with no more than a fright. And fantastic aerial views from Finland. Cape Hatteras on the east coast of the USA. Rings of bubbles show humpback whales are hunting here. Seabirds wait for their portions. The whales circle their prey and blow out air, creating nets of bubbles. Into these, small crabs and fish crowd together. The whales just have to suck them in. By diving into the rabble, the wildlife filmmaker Rick Rosenthal wants to get spectacular pictures of the underwater hunt.
Got it, Rick?
A risky business. Even if humpback whales are harmless for humans, they can grow nearly 10 meters long and weigh up to 36 tons. Their mouths as big as a barn door. Their tail fins that could clobber you. Good reasons not to get too close. All of a sudden, Rick encounters a swarm of tuna. Like torpedoes, they shoot into the net of bubbles, exploiting the whale's hunting technique. They pop up directly next to Rick. Rick is nearly bowled over. Then he is caught in the net of bubbles. Everyone on board is worried. Rick is nowhere to be seen. But the underwater specialist is fine.
Whoa, was that something? Following the tunas, they're right below me. Tunas are going towards the humpback whales. Here comes the sand lance, the bait fish. I'm looking down and it's next thing I know, I'm in the net. Bubbles are right back of me. I can't get out. The bait fish, the sand lance, are rocketing up to get away from the whales. I just see white water, like a washing machine. Here comes the big whale, right next to the camera, closes the mouth. That's the closest I've been to being swallowed by a humpback whale.
How easy this dive could have gone wrong. Rick was very lucky. As are the many wildlife filmmakers worldwide who go about their dangerous work every day to capture fantastic images of our planet.